She couldn't believe she had allowed the parking fine to balloon to such a large sum. She wouldn't be in court right now if she had just paid it when she received it. The judge seemed unconcerned about her unfortunate conditions. When her daughter spoke in court, something happened that left her lost for words. Maranda Kent's morning had already been a whirlwind of breakfast, last-minute errands, and dealing with a screaming 4-year-old. The afternoon was shaping up to be just as crazy. Her oldest child was 8 years old and in the midst of a flurry of birthday invitations. Maranda had to race across town to see whoever was on the 3 p.m. schedule. Fortunately, this one had obvious signs of a party, including a bundle of bright balloons connected to the mailbox. Her heart dropped when she saw the parking situation. This was not only a congested street, but every available space, including the driveway and lawn, was occupied. There was only one spot available, and it was the worst one. It was on the street. The nearest other open space was several blocks away. Therefore, Maranda approved and decided to drive up on the sidewalk, fully aware that she was parked in a prohibited area. She hoped that no one would complain in the few hours they would be at the party. However, when the cake was finished and the games were over, she came out to an unexpected surprise. A bright yellow parking ticket was hidden beneath her windshield wiper. She signed the envelope and decided to open it. The monetary value made her stomach turn. It cost $100. It might have seemed tolerable to some, but it was a crazy amount of money to her. There was no way she was going to be able to pay for this. She'd lost her bet, and things were about to get worse. The $100 fine quickly grew to $300. Because she couldn't pay anywhere near the dead, the fine had increased. She was now caught between a rock and a hard place, with only one option remaining. She had to appear in court. Things didn't get any better when she was assigned the 8 a.m. slot and had to work. Maranda sat near the back of the courtroom, listening to others argue their cases. Her youngest was restless, and her 8-year-old appeared perplexed and frightened. When it was her turn, she begged her kids to be quiet for 10 minutes and took her place at the front table. The judge appeared to be a fair individual. Maybe he'll give her a break? The judge told her about her parking violation. Maranda muttered a worried yes and quickly explained her predicament. His expression was solemn. He'd probably heard 100 heartbreaking stories like hers before. Suddenly, he asked an unusual question. He asked if the girls with her were her daughters. He also wanted to know, the eldest, want to approach the bench. Miranda's eyes widened as she looked at the judge. Why did he want to interrogate her daughter? Her 8-year-old took small, concerned steps to the judge's bench. He gesticulated for her to join him and held the microphone up to her tiny mouth. The judge asked her about what to do with her mother since Essie had broken the law. Should she make a payment? The judge went on to ask her strange questions about her favorite subjects in school, whether she liked the cake on that specific birthday, and what she wanted to be when she grew up. Finally, he told her the options. To begin, she could pay the entire $300. Second, she could afford to pay the original $100. Third, they could decrease it down to $50. Or they could reduce it to $0. What do you think the little girl's answer was? The entire courtroom burst out laughing when her daughter muttered $50. Maranda had been steamrolled by her own child, however, in a very fair manner. Even so, when her daughter reached down and grabbed her tummy, the judge inquired as to what was wrong. The 2 words she would utter would alter the course of history. The little girl said that she was starving, and the judge then said something Maranda would never forget. He told her that she should take her girls out for breakfast instead of the $50. Another round of amused chuckles swept across the courtroom. The judge smiled, his face finally warming up. The weight of the day melted away from Miranda's shoulders. That was the end of their case. She was ready to keep her word, and she knew exactly where to go. In town, there was a 1950s diner that served all-day breakfast with portion sizes that would challenge even a grown adult. She couldn't help but smile as she sipped a steaming cup of coffee and watched her 2 daughters devour pancakes like the world was ending. The judge was a wonderful man. He had witnessed her struggle and reached a reasonable conclusion. Her fine was not only far more manageable than the breakfast bill, but she also got to spend a wonderful meal with her children. It was a much-needed spark in humanity's faith. A man named Daryl from Rhode Island, like Maranda, managed to rack up a $90 fine for illegally parking and was summoned to court. When Daryl received the notice that he needed to appear in court, a dark feeling overcame him. He'd never been to court before, so he was expecting the worst, and meeting the judge was no exception. Daryl was fortunate in that the judge assigned to his case none other than Judge Frank Caprio, the same judge who controlled in Miranda's case. Judge Frank Caprio has built a reputation for being difficult on criminals. He had a commanding presence that filled the room. He was also known for being unpredictable, obsessing over every detail of a case. Daryl arrived first, accompanied by his son Jacob. Daryl's wife was at work, so he had to bring Jacob to court with him. Even though it was at Daryl's cost, he thought it would teach his son a valuable lesson about obeying the law. When Daryl took the stand in court, he presented himself and his son and explained why he was there. As he listened, Judge Caprio nodded. Daryl explained that his $90 fine was imposed because he needed to park his car in the middle of the city so that he wouldn't be late for work. As he looked at Daryl, the judge's brows furrowed. The judge looks at Jacob and tells him that his father did something wrong without saying anything to Daryl. Daryl looks guiltily at the judge and encourages his son to interact with him. Judge Caprio abruptly asks little Jacob if he wants to take the stand. Daryl was perplexed but encouraged his son to follow orders. Because this was not a serious case or involving any serious felonies, Judge Caprio turned to Daryl's son and immediately started conversing with him in front of the court. He probed Jacob with some probing questions, such as, what was your favorite subject in school? Was what his all-time favorite film? Was his father a good man? Then he gestured for Jacob to come closer. Judge Caprio began questioning Jacob about his father's parking fine. He was curious if his father really parked illegally because he was late for work. While the court waited patiently Daryl's reaction, he looked nervously at his son. Jacob nodded slowly and hesitantly. Judge Caprio emerged to disregard his nod and told the youngster that it was time for him to make a decision. Judge Caprio told Daryl that he was putting his fate in the hands of his 5-year-old son. He was going to decide whether or not his father had to pay the $90 fine. Daryl was astounded when the judge told Jacob he had 3 options. The first option was for his father to pay the entire $90 fine. The second was for his father to pay only $30, and the third and final option was for his father to charge nothing at all and walk away and leave with a warning. Jacob quickly chose the second option. The entire court burst out laughing at his decisive reaction. Daryl couldn't help but laugh at how his son was taking advantage of him. Jacob was informed by Judge Caprio that he had a great sense of justice and that he is going to make for a good judge one day. However, this wasn't the end of the case. Judge Caprio refused to impose a fine on Daryl and instead reached an agreement with him. He told Daryl that if he took Jacob out for a delicious breakfast right after the court session ended, he would only be given a warning. Daryl was overjoyed with the outcome and thanked Judge Caprio for a fair and amusing trial. He proudly brought Jacob out for breakfast, just as he made a promise, and told him to choose option 3 the next time. Maranda Kent and Daryl, 2 individuals facing parking fines, both found themselves in court before Judge Frank Caprio, known for his fairness and compassion. Maranda, a struggling single mother, had let her $100 parking fine balloon to $300. In court, the judge unexpectedly involved her 8-year-old daughter, asking her what should be done about the fine. After playful questions, the judge offered options ranging from paying the full fine to waiving it entirely. The girl chose $50, prompting laughter in the courtroom. However, upon hearing the child say she was hungry, Judge Caprio waived the fine entirely and advised Maranda to take her daughters out for breakfast instead, leaving her relieved and grateful. Similarly, Daryl appeared in court with his 5-year-old son, Jacob, for a $90 fine. Judge Caprio also asked Jacob to decide his father's penalty, offering the same options. Jacob chose to reduce the fine to $30, amusing everyone present. Ultimately, the judge waived the fine on the condition that Daryl take his son out for breakfast, emphasizing the importance of family and justice. Both cases highlighted Judge Caprio's unique approach to justice, blending humor, humanity, and life lessons, leaving a lasting impression on those involved. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments section below and to subscribe for more heartwarming stories.